Hi friends, how about we dye some yarn, or maybe rather, let's dye some wool. Let's dye a wool bat. I have got this absolutely gorgeous Corriedale bat for spinning, which is something I'm very eager to learn. I only got a spindle at the moment, but in the near future, hopefully, I will be able to get a proper spinning wheel. And this is gorgeous. It is almost a shame to dye on it because it is so pretty as is. But it is the reason I got it. I wanted to dye a wool bat. So that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to do it the same way we always do. Same procedure as last year, Miss Sophie. We're starting off by soaking it. We are ready to soak the bat, the roving. No, this is a bat. This has been clearly manipulated. Pretty sure it doesn't look like this when it comes off the sheep. We are getting ready to soak. However, I don't feel that I can use a zip tie on this, so I'm just going to leave it be and just be very careful. So, first off, same procedure as every year. I'm adding some acid dye in the soaking water, a little less than a tablespoon. I double up, so I use a little bit of the soaking water and I use a little bit in the dye pan. You can choose to just use it in the dye pan. I've got 2 large measuring cups here with 2 liters of cold water in each for a total of 4 liters. There we go. And I'm just going to gently add in the bat. I also got a small piece here. I'm just adding it in, gently pushing it down to make sure everything gets wet, or the dye is not going to adhere to the yarn, or the bat in this case. We need to open up those fibers. Okay, there we go. Well, let that sit for at least half an hour, probably a little bit more, to make sure it gets soaked all the way through. And then we can dye. It's been soaking for a while now, and it is time to dye. So I've got my dye pan over here. I'm using a small one since I only got one bat. And I have organized my tray here of things for dyeing. I've got an old empty yogurt container with cold, clean water, a spoon to poke the yarn, my little mixer thingamadoo to make sure the dye dissolves in the water. I'm going to be mixing it up in my measuring cups. Got a couple of teaspoons for grabbing the dye. Make sure you use separate tools for yarn dyeing and not the same as in your kitchen. Most important thing, face mask, protect your airways. It's a very, very fine powder and you do not want to breathe that in. And I have got some gloves as well. And last but not least, we have the dyes. So I was thinking I'm going to use purple, and I was thinking I would go for something like a moody plum. And I was planning on combining this with hot fuchsia. However, I realized I'm all out of that. It's not in my stock right now, so I'm thinking I'm going to add a little bit of pink instead. So it's going to be a brighter, I think, dye than what I originally thought, but I think it's going to look really nice on this bat. So first off, let's mix some dye stock. I've added about 2 cups of clear cold water into one of the measuring cups, and I'm going to add in, well, before I do anything, mask on. Like I said, protect your airways. And I'm going to start with purple. I'm going to grab about a little under half a teaspoon. Can you see that? There we go. And I'm going to add that into the measuring cup. And I'm going to add a little bit of the pink. Can you focus on that? Just a little bit. Like so much. And we're adding in that too. And mixing it to blend. And as you can see, the color looks really dark right now. But we are going to dilute it somewhat. I'm going to pour about half of this stock into the other measuring cup, and then I'm going to fill both of them up with just water. So let's do that, and then we can transfer our batt to the dye pan. First thing I'm going to do is to add a little bit more citric acid into the dye pan, like so. And then, just to make it easier for myself, making sure that I get dye on both sides of the batt, I'm going to start by adding some of the stock to the bottom, like so. And now I am going to attempt to gently remove the batt from the soaking water. Just squeezing it towards the edge here. There we go. I'm going to set that aside. Oh, sorry. Let me move the camera just a tiny bit. There you go. Let me see if I can rearrange the batt a little. Spread it out evenly into the pan. I think something like that is good. And we're adding in more dye. This color is looking very promising. Even though I went for a different pink than the one I had originally planned, this is actually pretty much what I had in mind. There we go. And now we're going to put it on the heat, over the heat, and start heating up the yarn and the dye stock. I am turning on the heat. And we'll start heating up our concoction. And I'm just gently pushing everything down to make sure everything is submerged and everything gets some dye on it. And I need to be really careful with this one when it starts to heat up, that I'm not too vigorous when poking and stirring the batt, or it might felt. We do not want that. So I'm just going to be poking it for a bit while it's still cold. trying to make sure that I get the dye inside all the lengths of the bat. And once it starts to heat up, I need to be more careful. There we go. I'm just gonna let it sit until it starts getting hot, and I'll check in again. It's starting to get hot now. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off the pan. I'm going to turn down the heat. It's not supposed to boil. It just needs to be hot. And I'm poking it very gently now, because if you stir too much, you create friction in addition to the heat, and that is what is going to felt the thing you're dyeing. As you can see, we still have quite a lot of dye left in the water. I do expect there to be some left even after dyeing. I don't think it's going to exhaust completely because I did use a lot of dye. But I'm going to let it sit in the heat for a little while longer, at least 5-10 minutes more, and I'll check on it again. Now we are going to declare that we are done with this. Still a little bit of dye left in the water, but it's not a lot. It's actually a lot less than I expected. Everything has heated properly, and it's still very warm, so it's going to continue to exhaust while it's cooling down. So coming up next, we are going to set this aside to let it cool down, and it has to cool down completely before we rinse it because we do not want to shock the wool. So we're setting it aside, letting it cool completely, and then we can rinse it. Moment of truth. It has a lovely dark purple color. I'm adding cold water to my rinsing tub, and I'm going to be using soak. You don't have to use soap. You can use dish soap or shampoo, whatever you got. If you do want to use soak, I do carry this in my web shop, the smaller bottles, all the fragrances. So let's see now if we can transfer this gently. Well, the water is absolutely clear. Well, pretty much. There's a slight hue. Just gently squeezing out the water. And there we go. Let's set that aside. And I'm going to go grab my soaking tub to transfer to. Ooh, I left it on the balcony and it's cold. Ooh, my, oh my. There we go. Now, with soap, you don't have to, this one, you don't have to rinse more than once. I usually do it twice, but I think this time I'm just going to settle for once, because I don't want to be disturbing the wool too much. Look at that. It is gorgeous. Alright, let's see if I can squeeze the water out of it without putting strain on the fibers. Actually, you know what? I think I do want to rinse this once more. There's a lot of soap in it. But yeah, look at that. There's some darker purples in between. This is very lovely. So I'm going to rinse it once more, and we're going to, I can't hang this to dry, but I think I'm just going to drape an old towel on a drying rack and just put it on top of that. So I'm going to do that and we'll be right back. So here is our finished bat of wool, and as you can see it has several different purple colors. We got one here, a little bit lighter over here, and I'm quite pleased with how it turned out, and I am going to be spinning it in the future, hopefully. First I need to learn how to spin. We'll get back to that. But yeah, there it is. Looks fabulous. I will for sure be dyeing more wool bats in the future, absolutely. And yeah, trying different things. I kind of like that there are different purples in this one, in addition to the darker natural colors. So yeah, very pleased. Definitely doing it again. Definitely going to attempt to spin this. Fingers crossed I will be able to do that. And yeah, that's this week's yarn dyeing or wool dyeing video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
You got me feeling good, right by your side. Lost in every move, writing down your smile. Baby, hold me